All right. Well, what I am talking about today is the use of an iPhone or an iPad for that matter for live news reporting, or as I like to call it, you have a live truck in your hand. And this is a TV live news van right here. I have spent many hours in it myself. Right on top of it is the satellite dish. If you're far away from the station, you have to use satellite transmission to get your signal back. If you are closer to the station, this is what you use. This is the microwave antenna. And when you're broadcasting live, this is the thing that you see go up in the air. And this is a live news van. In fact, back here is where the generator is kept in order to power some of this material. And inside here is where all the TV monitors are and editing bays and things that you can use to edit videotape. So, anyway, this is a live truck. What I am here to talk about today, and I should turn this down just a bit so it doesn't blow us out of the water, is how we use uh, live broadcast technology in our class, not necessarily with the use of that live truck. So, what I do is teach Mornings on the Hill. It's BDJ 560 here at Syracuse University. That's the course extension, if you will. But what it is a weekly newscast in which students cover campus news stories. They go out, they cover the stories, and every Wednesday morning we broadcast the stories in a newscast that runs from 10 until 11 o'clock on Orange Television Network. It's a fun class. It's something that it seems like I've had a waiting list for this class year in and year out because students love to be able to take it. They use this class to build up their demo reels, if you will. All of my students in class here are aspiring broadcasters, and they hope to go on into to land jobs at big TV stations and markets, perhaps where some of you live, or maybe even network television outlets like CBS and ABC and NBC. So that's what we do. We put together a newscast on a weekly basis, and we use iPhones and iPads to collect the news and to report on the news on a live basis. So our morning news class gets together on Wednesday mornings, and you see them right here in our NCC News studios. This is at the Newhouse School at Syracuse University, where it's snowing right now. But again, we use this technology on a weekly basis to help deliver the news all around campus. Okay, getting back to live trucks, I've mentioned that before. I love live trucks. I was a local news reporter, and I put that in parentheses, and I cannot lie. Some of you might know the song, but anyway, I was a local news reporter for a long, long time, and I spent many hours working around live trucks and live broadcast television. I was a morning news reporter, so many of my early morning hours, when many of you were sleeping, were spent reporting on the news. There's a photo of me inside the live truck. I seem to take a lot of pictures of live trucks for some reason. As I went through my iPhone looking to put this this lesson together, I found that I had a lot of pictures of live trucks in the snow, for instance, live trucks in the morning. I have no idea why I have this picture, but I took it nonetheless because I thought, something, I love live trucks. Live trucks at IHOP. Apparently, International House of Pancakes was a story that day, but you can see the live trucks there. Live trucks in a graveyard, because apparently there was a story in a graveyard that day, and I decided to take a picture of the live truck. And I got artsy. Live truck in the clouds. This is the satellite dish that I was referring to before, and satellite is what we had to use in order to get a signal back to the station from far, far away. I'm here to tell you right now, you don't need a live truck in order to broadcast live. Live trucks, as you probably could tell by some of those photos, they're big. These are big pieces of equipment that require a lot of maintenance and a lot of money to run them and to operate them and to get them to work efficiently. And then there's the matter of parking them. And then there's the matter of you can't necessarily get them through a drive-through if you want to get something to eat. So from big problems to small problems, live trucks might not make sense. And they don't always work. In fact, live trucks, when it's cold out like it can be here in the Northeast, sometimes that antenna won't work. You can't get it to operate. So even though you spend a lot of money on this object, it's not doing you any good because you can't broadcast live with it. Okay, so why am I telling you all of this about live trucks? Well, I'm telling this to you because with that cell phone that all of you have in your hand, and hopefully some of you are not looking at it right now, but with that cell phone, you have the ability to go live. This is another technology that local television and network television uses as well. These backpacks, I just wanted to show you because I think it's important. Some of you may have seen them before if you've worked on television newscasts or if you've been to TV news stations. These backpacks actually use cell phone transmission. So this live view that you see right here is essentially, and this cable plugs right into the camera. And this live view essentially is a massive magnet for all of the cell phone signals out there. This is sucking up all those cell phone signals because it's using them to transmit. So this object requires, as you might imagine, it's an expensive piece of equipment. It also requires close supervision. It's very expensive, so you're not going to see anyone walking too far away. These are other objects that are used for live television newscasts. But again, it's not something you need. We use this. At Mornings on the Hill, our broadcast at Syracuse University, we use cell phones. Not unlike the cell phones you probably have in your hands right now to help us broadcast the news. It's not only in terms of live reporting, of broadcasting the news as it's happening, but also to record interviews, to record news stories, to go out and collect the news and to turn it around and to put it on that newscast that I was telling you about that we put together once a week. We use iPhones and iPads to cover news stories, to go out and cover news stories that are happening on campus, to provide live coverage. As I mentioned to you before, we use them, and I'll show you some examples of how we actually do that, and to also allow for live interviews through a certain app that we use, and I'll show you this app. We're able to have people who are in their homes or in their offices or wherever they are with the use of their cell phone, power up an app and essentially join us live on the air. It looks good, it sounds good, and it's something that we find to be very affordable and something that works without having to use one of those expensive live trucks that I seem to have so many pictures of on my phone. Okay, here's an example of how we used our iPhones and iPads for our newscast this spring. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and show you this. This is Mornings on the Hill. This was a newscast that we had. Let me turn this down so it doesn't get too loud. So this was all the stories that we have coming up in our newscast. It was Columbus protest. There was a football game, and there was a trolley accident that happened on campus. So those are all kind of the big stories that we have. So our very first story on Mornings on the Hill, and this was from last semester, was a live report from the scene of a very bad accident that happened on campus. This was a trolley accident that happened, a bus trolley, if you will, that had hit a student. We learned a valuable lesson this day, and that's making sure our cords, and you can see this cord right here, making sure that the cords for our microphones were long enough. But nonetheless, this was a way that we used our iPhones and our iPads to broadcast live. This is another story that we had in our newscast that day. Now, if you'll notice, we pay special attention to good, solid tripod use. This is a nice, steady shot, but this again is being transmitted with the use of an iPhone. And this story from Maya, who is also on campus, you can see it's a very windy day with the leaves blowing, but she too was reporting live with the use of an app that we have on our iPhones and our iPads. In downtown Syracuse, James Corrigan was at the scene of another live story, as I mentioned, on Columbus Day. He was using his phone to broadcast this story live. Please note how still that shot looks. That is a nicely framed shot, good lighting, good camera technique. That's on a tripod. Same thing with this live story from Rob Flax. He's reporting from downtown again with the use of an iPhone. An iPhone is shooting this. It's a nice steady shot. It's well lit, even with the sun overhead. And so, again, another example of how we are using iPhones and iPads. Now, each of these, as I mentioned to you before, shot with an iPad. We use something called the Gero Live Plus app, and I'm going to show it to you in a morning. Now, we also use news photographers. Each of the live hits that you just saw required an extra set of hands. And I'm a very big believer, even though I'm talking to you today about the use of an iPhone or an iPad to create a live news report, it does require an extra set of hands. It does require a news photographer. It's probably best practice for it to look good and to look professional, for you to use someone who is there, who can troubleshoot the issues that you might have with the app, who can make sure the camera is steady and still, who can do the things that a news photographer would normally be doing to make sure that on air look is as good as it is and as good as you see on the screen right there. Okay, so this is the iPad live hit in action, if you will. This is Caleb, and Caleb is shooting a live hit here with Sarah. And this is from a building that's on campus here. But you can see we have this device that essentially serves as a brace for the iPad. We have, I believe, this is an IFB up there in order to talk back to the station, to the studios. And again, this is Caleb zooming in and focusing up, and you see how that's on a nice tripod. We are Syracuse University, so I want to make sure that I get that logo in there. And there's Sarah, who's getting ready for her live hit as well. I'll turn this down so we can get. So again, Sarah getting ready for her live story with her script on her phone there. And this is just an example of how we use that iPad or iPhone. Either or will work. The crucial element with this, again, is the tripod. I'm going to talk about some best practices here in a moment in terms of what I think you should be doing to make this look as good as you possibly can. This is another example of the use of an iPad, and I'll turn this down here, for a live hit. This is Ryan, and Ryan is reporting live. You can see again, Riley is the camera operator. We have the iPad in an actual little frame here, and it's hooked up to a tripod with a little shoe beneath it, and also lighting. Again, I want to suggest to you that even though the use of an iPhone or an iPad isn't necessarily like the use of a live truck when it comes to live news reporting, uh, it's also important that you still give it a good look. It's still important that you still have the elements of a good live broadcast and a live report. You have to make sure that you account for lighting. You have to make sure audio is taken into account. So all of these things are important. I'll talk about those in a moment too, but I wanted to show you just some examples of how Mornings on the Hill uses the iPad and the iPhone for live broadcast transmissions. This is the app that we use. It is Gero Live Plus Mobile. It's a free app, although it does cost on the receiving end when you're hooking up your receiving equipment for Gero. But nonetheless, this is a broadcast standard piece of application, if you will. It's something that is being used by the local news stations in our market and likely at other markets around the country as well. It is one of many. Let's say I am not an employee of Degero. They're not paying me anything. I don't get a free Degero swag or a hat or anything like that, but it is the app that we use. So I wanted to give you a bit of a demonstration of that. This is what the Degero Live Plus mobile app does. It enables you to broadcast live from virtually anywhere. It's designed for mobile journalists and video contributors. You can share video with this. You can take video and then send it through the app. You can live report through this app. With smartphones or tablets, the iPhone, the iPad is what we use. It allows you to essentially do what a live truck did. It allows you to take your phone and to record video and to feed it, if you will. It allows you to use your phone to provide a live signal the way a live truck did. It allows you to use your phone to provide a live report, a live television broadcast from the field, if you will. I've highlighted this section right here. It's also a great backup. So again, I don't want to suggest that this is the end all to be all. I don't want to suggest that this is something that at the end of the day is going to provide all of your solutions. But nonetheless, this is something that we use at Syracuse University. It's something we use for mornings on the hill, and it works quite well for us. Let me give you a quick demonstration of this too, even though I sound like I'm not a salesperson here. Sounds like I'm almost giving you a demonstration of this product, but I want to, okay, here's my phone. And here is the app, the Gero. Okay, Live Plus app. So this is what I see when I am using the Degero Live Plus app. I am the camera operator. You're the camera operator. And what you see on the screen is what you see on the screen as well. In the lower corner here, this is the frames per second that you are transmitting at. You see you have some options, so you can go a little bit more higher quality or even further higher quality. Uh, it gives you the option on the lower right hand corner. Okay, you can transmit live, or you can record a short video and feed it and import. If you have a clip that's already stored on your phone, it gives you the ability to go in there and take one of those clips and to send it over the air. Then it's a matter of when I hit start here, it's going to start searching for my Wi-Fi. You see that up here. It's looking for my Wi-Fi and it's looking for my cell because it's combining those two in order to create a transmittable pathway, if you will, for my broadcast. I want to get my thumb in the way there. So right now you are if someone was back at the Newhouse Studios looking at the at source one, they would see me feeding this from my office here. But you see right here is we've got the cell signal that this is feeding from, the wireless signal. So you can see my wireless a little bit stronger than my cell. It tells you that you are on the air right now. Right here is my level, so I can see how my mic level is going. I've got IFB capabilities, so if I'd like to be talking back to the station, I can do that. And also a little slide panel here, so if I care to zoom a little bit, I can zoom as well. So you can see where there's great functionality with this, even though it's not necessarily a live television camera, if you will. I might say, something actually it is a live television camera because when you are transmitting back to the control room, somebody's seeing this and they have the ability to punch it up and put it out over the air. So that in a nutshell is the Degero app. I know about a thumbnail's worth or probably about less than a thumbnail's worth of information about that app. I know it works for us. If you have more questions about it, I'd certainly be able to point you in the right direction as far as getting more information. But that is what that app looks like when you are using it, and that's what our student photographers are looking at when they're feeding their shots out over over this app and getting it out over the air when we're broadcasting every Wednesday morning. Now there are before we wrap up here, I want to go through what I would consider to be some best practices when it comes to actually doing this. um, when it comes to using your iPhone or your iPad, if you are deciding that you want to go this route, whether it's to transmit back to a centralized location to get that signal out over the air and to feed it somewhere, or if you're just using your iPhone or an iPad to actually record a news report or to shoot a stand-up, if you will, shoot a stand-up. These are best practices to follow. This doesn't change no matter what method you're using. This is kind of the tried and true through time, the method that works to make things look as good as possible. You have to use a tripod. I made that point before. And if you don't have a tripod, you have to figure out a way to get a nice steady shot. That can be by putting it on a surface. That can be by resting it on a pillow, if you will. Anything that's going to allow you to get a nice steady shot where we can't see your hands shaking if you're holding the camera. Because believe me, me, even if you've got the steadiest hand in the world, it's still going to shake a little bit when it comes to a live hit and you're holding that camera still. Lighting is important. You saw that one particular instance where we had Ryan who was standing in front of the camera. You have to have good lighting. I even have lighting in this in my office here for Zoom. You need to shine light on the person's face in order for us to see it as best as possible. Um, Audio is important too. When you're using your phone to record an interview, you have to get close to the person. You can plug a mic in, and there are mics out there that will work quite well with iPhones. Um, but if you are doing a video recording of someone, or if you're reporting and you don't have a mic plugged into this iPhone, you really have to make sure you are close to the person, or get a handheld mic. If there's extraneous noise in the background, it's going to drown out the speaker, and that's something that you definitely do not want to do. Even though this, I think I showed you just a moment ago how this camera does have a little zoom function to it. You have to really zoom with your feet. At the end of the day, just the way I think people have heard best practice with any camera, that's your best zoom mechanism of all. If you need to get close to something, you've got to move your feet with it. That's what we suggest to our live photographers, that listen, if you need to move to show something the way that we showed you in that particular story, the trolley story, for instance, use your feet to get closer to the action. And it's always best to use a buddy. That's my way of saying a photographer is always necessary with these live reports, because it's nearly impossible to shoot it as a selfie. You really need to have a photographer along with a reporter to work as a team to give it the most professional look as possible. Always shoot in landscape. Think of how a TV screen looks. You don't want to be shooting it for Insta. This is for television. So keep that in mind. You want to be shooting in landscape mode. Um, the Gero app that we have works best in a robust wireless internet environment. You might even consider using Zoom. I mean, Zoom could be used if you pin the featured speaker. You can certainly use that as a way to broadcast live, and Zoom doesn't cost you a thing. Um, Plan for power. When you use your phone to record interviews, especially in the Northeast where we get cold weather, you have to plan for power, because it's a battery draining process. If you are recording video, this Gero app requires a lot of power, as you would imagine, so it can suck a lot of battery life very quickly. Consider your battery charger and a spare outlet somewhere because you're definitely going to need to recharge at some point. Um, all of this said, I do not believe that news cameras are going away. I don't think the iPhone is going to replace what you're seeing here. I just don't, because this is pre-pandemic. It seems like it's so long ago, but it's really not. This is 2019, and this is right after a Syracuse University men's basketball game. You can see the press gaggle there. I don't see any iPhones. These are all professional grade cameras, and these are not just local, but it's network people too. I don't see these cameras going away, but I definitely think there are opportunities when it comes to your iPhone or your iPad when it comes to live reporting. We're doing it on a weekly basis. We're doing it with success. We're doing it, and it's cost efficient, and we're doing it with the ability to put together award-winning shows. And that's part of what we do with Mornings on the Hill, and certainly when it comes to live reporting with our iPhones and our iPads. So with that, I will I will now be quiet. I will be more than happy to field any questions that you have regarding this process too. But as I said before, I really feel strongly that this is something that can help accentuate and kind of further your live news coverage. If you have a newsroom put together, I think the use of these tools can only make you stronger in terms of how far you can go in terms of covering news stories.
All right. So I put in chat just so they know that they can either raise their hand or put their question in chat if they have any questions. And by the way, I was just made aware, sorry, Keith, that they can't turn their cameras on. So that is, I
Oh,
know.
okay,
So they're
gotcha.
not being rude. That's just literally, I just found, I'm so sorry. Now I know.
No, 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 no.
So
No,
any
that's fine. That's
questions in
fine.
here?
Yeah, happy to answer any questions regarding, the use of phones for live television or how we do it for our Mornings on the Hill program too. Just if anyone in there is curious about Syracuse University's broadcast program as well, the show that I showed you here is something that goes out over Orange Television Network. So it's viewable by people out in the community who live here in central New York, Syracuse, and the surrounding area, and also goes out over the internet. It's the one newscast that we have that does that. Most of our other news programs are done in house and are done with students. They're done as class projects, but this is the one that actually goes out to the public where people can see it. So.
Very neat. Any questions? No. All right. Well, if there's no questions, then we're not going to take up any more of your time. Thank you so much, Keith.
My
Appreciate all
pleasure.
the information.
And also, if anyone ever, I hope that my contact information is
Yeah,
available.
they
But
have it.
if there were ever any questions about to our program at Syracuse, I'd be happy to answer them.
Perfect. Well, thank you so
Okay,
much.
my pleasure.
All right. We will see you.
Bye bye.